Jess, I'm so thankful that we finally found a time that worked to chat. You're in a very busy season of life, 3 young kids, and I think you just moved also. So just really thankful that we're going to have this time to just get to know each other, for you to tell your story to the listeners, and hopefully shed some light on a very important topic, I think, which is the female cycle and just how there's so many things that play into it. So I'm excited for you to be here. I would love it if you just share a little bit about yourself, maybe how that kind of fits into your journey, whatever you feel like would be appropriate to share. I would love for you to just kind of let our listeners know a little bit more about you.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you for having me. Yeah, we've tried so many times to make this work. And so I just am so thankful for your grace.
Of course.
Yeah, a little bit about me. So my name's Jess. I am 31. I have 3 kids. An almost 6-year-old, 3-year-old, and almost a 1-year-old. And I'm currently in a season of staying at home with the kids. That's my full-time job, but I'm also a nutritional therapy practitioner. I graduated from the NTA, the Nutritional Therapy Association. That's all these words. Last July, which is crazy. So about a year ago. And right after I graduated, I had a baby. And so it was kind of like all this like uphill, really excitement. And then it was like, I can't do anything with this right now. I need to have my child, postpartum recovery, all that. So then I've just been slowly like getting back into it. So that's kind of my little thing and gig I like to do outside of momming. My focus for the women that I think about and speak to and try to reach has to do about my story. So like you said, share your story. So in a nutshell, Spark Notes version.
Yeah.
When I was, in my teens, I got on birth control because everybody was doing it. No big deal. And so I was on the pill for about 8 years. And in the midst of those 8 years after, like in the middle of college, I was a collegiate athlete for a couple of years, and then I quit playing soccer. After that, I kind of lost my identity of what I was supposed to do. And it just kind of triggered some control. And so I got into disordered eating and trying to be as thin as possible. And I started training for a marathon. So I basically like quadrupled my exercise and cut my eating in half. And so I was very thin, lost some weight, which I didn't have any weight to lose to begin with. And so kind of had this double-edged stress on me that I didn't even know about with the birth control, because I was still, air quotes, getting a cycle, the pill bleed, and then just the stress of under eating and over exercising. Kind of fast forward through that. My now husband, we were high school sweethearts. So a great relationship all through that. We got married when I got out of college. And after about a year or so of marriage, it was like, let's start growing our family. Got off the pill and I never got my period. So I was like, that's strange. Didn't have any education about my cycle, by the way, besides that, like, you're supposed to bleed once a month. That's literally all I knew.
Yeah.
And so I think around 6 months, I called a doctor, a provider, and just said, haven't got my cycle. What am I supposed to do? So I got seen, and they did an ultrasound, and they saw some cysts on my ovaries. I was missing a period. And so they said, oh, you have PCOS. I was like, what is that? So I went through the next, probably 6 years, believing and kind of identifying that I have PCOS, which is Polycystic Ovarian Syndrome. Very common. It really is.
Yeah.
And the way you get diagnosed is if you hit 2 out of 3 criteria, which is ovarian cysts, irregular or missing period, or low androgens, which I didn't have, but they didn't, I hit the other 2. So didn't really know how to deal with that besides believing, okay, so I need fertility treatment. And so we went through that route. So I was on letrozole and Provera I mean, reverse it. I had to start Provera to stimulate my period.
Yeah.
And had to take letrozole to stimulate ovulation. So then kind of fast forward through the conceiving years, which I'm so thankful for it, because since I didn't know any better, like I do have two healthy, beautiful gifts of children. But it was hard, and there was a lot of waiting. There was a miscarriage in the middle of that. And I wasn't doing anything for my health. By this time I was a little bit better, I guess you could say, about like eating. I kind of had shifted from like super restrictive to honestly, went through a lot of like late night binges. I mean, that lasted a couple of years where I was like, why don't I have the self-control I used to? So I'd try to be like how I was. And then my body would freak out and I'd raid the pantry. So I really hated myself for that for a while.
Yeah. There's a lot of shame.
And after my second child, something in me was like, I feel like I should be getting a cycle. I feel like I should have a period. I don't think this is normal. Like God designed me to have a cycle for a reason. Maybe I can figure something out.
So what time frame was that? Was that like 6 years you didn't have a cycle?
So yeah, technically I didn't have a cycle from the time I went on birth control, which was like 16, and then, so yeah, you can kind of look at it two ways. So 16 till like, 28.
Yeah. This is a long time.
Yeah. Or you can look at it from like when I started the fertility meds, which really that's not a period. It's not, that was around like 27, maybe 26 years old. And I'm now 31. So, and I got my true cycle when I think that was 28, 29. I want to say.
Yeah. That's a while.
Yeah. So then I reached out to a nutritional therapy practitioner who I had kind of heard through the grapevine, like from family and friends that they like know her. It's not just some random Instagrammer, but I was like, oh, but she does have like a legit following, things like that. But it's like, but who is she? And this is Kelsey Anderson, Buns and Balance. I share her stuff all the time. So I signed up to work with her, and y'all, the things she told me were so simple, but in 3 months I got my period back.
Wow.
And and then from there, 3 months later, and we can kind of go into, if you want, like, okay, so what did you do? But got my period back 3 months after that, conceived naturally, had a miscarriage. And then on my second cycle after my miscarriage, conceived again naturally. And now we have my almost 1-year-old.
Okay. Yeah. It's a wild journey.
I know. And so that's led me here to being like, wow, I really want to share this and like help women because I know there are so many women who struggle with disordered eating and irregular missing periods and infertility. And I've always loved health and wellness, but it was for the wrong reasons to start. It was very controlling, and it's just pretty cool how redemptive that has been, because I do love health and wellness, but for totally different reasons.
Definitely. Yeah. Like just the fact of going from like a really hardcore athlete to, I mean, it's just, there's so many things in there that people can relate to, and just like losing your identity, and then like all the shame about binging, like there's a lot of that, especially for women. But I just think for, just to realize that your cycle is not like something that is just a death sentence every month, and it's just so aggravating. And I just know I've heard so many women, they're like, I'll just be glad I don't have one anymore. Like it is just, I mean, I know it's easy from our point of view to see how incorrect that is, but I just think for the mass majority of women, like that's how they feel about their cycle. So I guess I'm just wondering from your perspective, like how has looking at your cycle changed? Like it, in the, I don't know, 12-year journey now that it probably has been.
Yeah. Oh, it's changed so much. I mean, it went from like something I didn't really think about, didn't know that a period was followed by ovulation. Like I didn't know, I had no idea about anything, didn't really care, to like, I am so proud to be a cyclical woman. And I think it is so empowering to know more about your cycle, and it's such a great tool to kind of have like a report card of your health, what's going on each month. I think it's something that can get easily, like, you can get obsessed about. I've had moments where it's been really, there are hard moments. I don't have a cycle right now because I'm still breastfeeding and my body's like still not ready. But when I was back into like having periods, it was in a cycle, it was like obsessive almost. Like I could see how I get down that route of like, oh my gosh, it's day 30. Like it's not here yet. What's going on? What's wrong with me? What did I do this month? Which, like, it's good to have that knowledge, but in the end too, like,
it can go the other way.
Stress yourself out. So I think it's pretty cool how our physical bodies are so aware of just how we're living, what we're doing, and it's gonna react in the ways that you're living to like protect you and to take care of you. It's not always bad. Like, I think it's easy to be like, my period's irregular. What do I need to do? What do I need to eat? Give me answer. Sure. And so I think I've just kind of learned to be like, I'm going to utilize this as a tool. I'm excited to get it again. No idea what it's going to be like, but we're going to work with it.
Yeah. So it kind of is interesting, the pendulum swing of like not caring and then overly obsessing, which we often do, go from one extreme to the other, and hopefully find a medium resting place that's good for us. But, that just makes me want to bring up the point of, I know you have at least one girl. Do you have two girls or one?
I do. Yeah. Two girls.
Yeah. So, and I have a daughter. So that just makes me want to encourage moms to like, you need to share these things with your daughter. Like, my daughter is 11. So, I mean, I would think in the next year or two, something like that, which I'm like not ready for, but anyway, it's coming. So
you are ready. Ready.
But I just, share these things with them because, she's nervous about it. She's like, doesn't, I mean, if you never experienced it and you probably heard other people talking negatively about it, she just doesn't want it to come. Right. But I'm just trying to help her understand, like, this isn't a bad thing. And just to understand what happens in her cycle, like in the 28-day overall cycle, because it's sad that, her doctor wouldn't sit her down and talk about these things. It would be a simple, 2 or 3 minute conversation that would help put her at ease and help, her as a blossoming woman understand more about her body, but it just doesn't happen. So us as moms, we need to take time to talk to our daughters about that. So that's just kind of a plug to you, mom. Even if you feel like you don't know a whole lot, Google it. Okay. Just Google what a 28-day cycle is and just share that with her because she needs to know about her body in those ways. So
just having that open conversation for sure. I'm excited for that. It's something I didn't have in my home. And so I was just so lost.
I mean, I didn't know what was going on.
So besides like, you're going to bleed. So here's some pads or tampons.
Right. Yeah.
So we're going to change that narrative.
Right.
For sure.
So I want to kind of transition a little bit into your eating journey and how that has sort of impacted and how that kind of fits in with the cycle, because I know that I shared actually on Instagram to my stories, like one of the posts that you had shared, like then and now. And it's just, it's easy to see when you're on the other side, but when you're in the then, you think you're doing everything right. Like I've definitely been in that more restrictive, just hardcore exercising, not eating enough, like eating all the clean foods. And I didn't feel great then. So will you share from your perspective how that's changed? Because I know it's been a big shift for you.
Yeah, huge shift. I would say, I mean, when you ask probably majority of women still, unless you're in this, like you said, people like us who are in this all the time, we talk to women who are in the same field, like we kind of forget that we're a small percentage of women who eat the way.
Like, doesn't everybody know this?
I know.
But they don't.
I know. Sometimes I'm on Instagram thinking like, are people getting annoyed of like, I'm just sharing the same things, but I still get questions all the time about like, should I really be eating beef multiple times a week? So I went from kind of believing what diet culture was really pushing out probably a decade ago about low fat, lean meats, up your vegetables, leafy greens, we'll get to this because not all of this is bad. These are not bad foods.
Yes, agreed.
But I was kind of eating to eat as little as I could, like few calories. And I was eating things that I thought were healthy. And I felt really in control. And it's not like I didn't physically feel bad at first. I think a lot of that happens because you kind of have this goal of eating healthy. So you do cut out processed foods. And so you're going to be feeling kind of good for a little bit, but then you got to start listening to your health markers that aren't about size or looks.
Yeah.
So no period. Boom. That's the first thing that was wrong. I had like some digestive issues that I think are pretty normalized, like bloating, constipation.
Oh, yeah.
And so what did I do? I blamed that on dairy because that's what dairy does. No, it doesn't, but that's what I believed. So I was like, perfect. Another reason to cut out more calories, go dairy free. So just eating this way that I never like followed diets actually, like, you know, following, titled, I don't
like
know,
whole 30, paleo, whatever.
Yeah. Never actually did that. I kind of just did this on my own. And, it worked in the sense of like, I got thin, I got lean, and that's about it. And then other things in my health started to kind of crumble, fold all the time. My nails would break all the time. Really thin, brittle hair. And now my hair grows like so fast. So then the shift happened once I started working with Kelsey. Yeah. I mean, I know Instagram is like, the really good thing about Instagram is these movements happen where it is much more common now to see kind of what my post was about the then and now. Like, I feel like we do see that a lot. I don't know if that's because it's who we follow or not.
Possibly.
It's possible. But she just started to teach me a lot more about like, okay, all these nuts and seeds you're consuming because of the like dairy alternatives, those actually hurt your metabolism. And they slow down your metabolism. They're not bad. She was very good about being like, we're not going to label stuff as good and bad, especially because that was my history. But like, it could be really helpful to kind of crowd out some of these. And I was just dumbfounded. I was like, I thought almond milk was healthier, you know? And so, and I was just pounding nuts and seeds.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's a big thing.
Because they were my snack. I had peanut butter all day long, you know, and it speaks volumes to like your cravings and whatnot, because I used to like crave peanut butter so bad.
Oh yeah, me too. Like
it is like by the spoonfuls, because it is a high, it's got good nutrients, high fat. So your body wants to crave that if you're restricting it in other ways. And now I like peanut butter, but I don't think twice about it. I'm just I
don't either. Yeah.
Isn't that so freeing? Oh
yes, definitely.
So I just started switching. Like I would get whole fat yogurt. I was a little nervous to do the whole milk, and she did, you know, educate me on like, we're not doing 1%, 2%. No. Yeah. You're going straight to whole fat. And then there's a whole conversation about quality of foods. And so I remember like doing half almond milk, half whole milk, because I just wasn't ready, which is okay. Totally okay.
It is.
And so now my fridge just looks way different than it used to. So I eat so much more fat, so much more, I up my protein in general, just way more calories. I went from like, my goal was like 12 to 1,500 a day. In my mind to like, I'm like, how much can I eat?
Well, you are nursing. So just want to make sure that people listening understand that you do need what 3 to 4 extra hundred at least, probably if you're nursing and least. You're exercising now. I know that you've shared some of that. So that's even more, you know, and people don't take that into account. I don't think it's like, we're just going to stick to this no matter what.
Yeah. That could be a whole nother podcast on how to eat while nursing. It's so sad to me that women try to,
because they want to lose the baby weight. They want to, and it's like, no, like you're nourishing another human. Like,
yes, your energy needs are so much more. I just saw some statistics or something about nursing and how it's the hours that you add up in a year are like more than a full-time job. and just the energy availability that you need to keep up with it, to keep your milk supply robust and good for the baby. It's like, yeah, you burn 500 calories a day just doing that. And then women are trying to exercise really quickly. It's like, you gotta just eat. So that's that side tangent. And so it's just that helps with the freedom of being like, oh, I am excited to try to fit as many nutrients on my plate as I can. But I also have the knowledge of like, okay, but that doesn't mean I'm just eating a takeout burger and fries. Like,
I think that's when people say, maybe they hear us say we're eating more calories, they think junk food calories.
Right.
No, these are like whole foods that somehow we've labeled as off limits.
Yeah.
Or somehow we're just trying to eat a small amount. I mean, I don't know. It's just like, we just have these things in our head because culture is a liar, you know?
Right. It's true.
So it's important to realize that. I think that's the first step, is that you have to realize that just because you've been doing something a certain way, or just because somebody you follow on Instagram says this is the only way to eat or whatever, doesn't make it true. Like, go try these things for yourself. Go seek out help that is trained in this, that maybe word of mouth. Like, I just think sometimes we take what we see as the gospel all the time, and we just can't do that. Like, there's so much information out there now, which is not a bad thing, but it's overwhelming, and some of it's just false.
Yeah,
so
it's
I think
so
we
true.
have to.
Your bio-individuality, that's like the stepping stone of what we learned at the NTA, because what we might have the same need, like, okay, we both need to get our period back because we both want to get pregnant, but the reason for that loss could be totally different. And so someone needing to eat 2,500 calories a day, at least that for a month straight, might not be helpful for a different reason that someone's losing it. So you do have to, you have to use wisdom and work with someone if that's the next step. Or just be like, what does my body really need? And that's where it gets tricky if disordered eating is in there, because that's mental. That's all mental health that you need to get out of, as far as like allowing yourself to eat more.
So define disordered eating, just because, you know, sometimes these terms, people aren't super familiar with them. So in your mind, like, how can you describe disordered eating? So that, I mean, maybe people might be disorder, you know, have this, but don't even know that that's them that you're talking about.
That's such a good question. My definition would be, disordered eating is eating in a way that desires some sort of control to either look a certain way, feel a certain way. It has you consumed by food. You think about it, if not all day, multiple times a day. And it can bring worry and stress and anxiety into your life if you're not eating the way that you believe you should be. And disordered eating, we keep saying that because it's different from an eating disorder.
Right.
Because it's not, in eating disorder, you have to be diagnosed. And you, like, professional help should be sought out. Whereas disordered eating, unfortunately, it's kind of that spectrum. You're not quite there yet, but you are on the way. And it is so common. I mean, 80+% of women. I mean,
oh, definitely.
I'm not just making that up. I know I've read that somewhere, but oh man, you are not alone. It is so common.
I'm so glad that you took time to define that, because I mean, I've heard the term personally and I kind of understood what it meant, but when you defined it like that, oh, I was definitely in that category. And probably 90% of the clients that I see are in that category also. So but I do feel like that's all from culture. Like, that's all from people sharing and, you know, me self-diagnosing and removing this and removing that. Like, I went through years and years of that. And so many people have, and maybe they've come out of it or are still there. A lot of people are still there. So I think it's good. Again, we have to recognize where we're at, you know, in this conversation. And so if you're there, like, there's so much grace. Like, there's no shame about, like, I wish I wouldn't have fallen for all of these dumb eating rules. It's just, okay, now I'm going to do things different. Like tomorrow's a new day.
Yes, absolutely. And it's so hard because you do, let's say you do work with someone who is in nutrition. There are time and places where you need to eliminate certain foods. So
that's the hard thing
it's
for me as a practitioner, even too, because I'm like, I just want to preface it by saying I'm so for food freedom and like, I don't like food rules. However, this is really good for you to eliminate right now because it's going to help your body to heal. That is hard coming from, somebody that really feels where this person's at, because I've been there.
Yes, exactly. And so that's where, if you kind of can relate to some of the things we've said about disordered eating or not having food freedom, it's like, it's a lot of inner work. Like only when it gets to a point of control or not, like only the individual. You as a practitioner you can preface it by saying like, okay, our goal is to have, not to get obsessive. My goal for this, like saying no to this food or this food group is because we need to heal XYZ.
Yeah.
But I think it's keeping that idea of like, the more foods that you can eat and incorporate into your diet, the healthier you are. Yeah. So if you're having to eliminate something for years, I think that's a red flag.
Agree.
If it's weeks or a couple months, like you're putting in some work, but you're healing something in the process.
Right. Like eliminating a food is not getting to the root cause.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Please hear us when we say that.
Yeah.
I thought that for a really long time. So I don't want you to keep thinking that. And if your practitioner is saying that, it might be a red flag. I say that in the best lovingly way possible. So kind of to round out this conversation, I think your story is just, I know that I can definitely relate to some parts, and I know that listeners surely can relate to some part of your story. So why don't you just share, just some top takeaways if somebody is feeling their self, in some of these spots that you are in, just a really hard place, like, man, I'm recognizing that this isn't the way that I want, to do things, but I just feel really stuck.
Yeah.
And overwhelmed. There's a lot of overwhelm in this area. It's awful.
It is. I think, to like really think about that question, I have to like go back into like younger Jess and what do I wish I would have known, or where do I wish someone would have led me? And I think like the first thing is how you're living now worth it? And why are you doing that as far as how you're treating food and your lifestyle? So are you comfortable with being obsessed with food? Do you like it? Does it feel good? Are you happy? Do you have freedom? And do you have space in your mind? Can you be present with the people around you? Or is it like the total opposite, which it was for me, like said no to going out to eat, said no to things at night because, oh no, I have a long run in the morning. So, got to do that. Literally I would cry about like having to eat a peanut butter jelly sandwich for lunch one day because I didn't prep enough, and it was like, this is the only option, and I cried. And I had no idea that was not normal. Yeah. So have that reflection.
Yes.
And I think the next thing that I would have liked to hear is that it is possible to have freedom. Yeah. Like I didn't think I thought I would always have these chains to some degree. And a lot of that is because my mom, I had an actual eating disorder for years. And I see how it still affects her in her 60s.
That's big.
So I was like, dang, I'm just going to live with weird habits forever. Nope. They're gone.
Praise the Lord. Like,
yep, by the grace of God.
Yes.
So are there moments, I know I can catch myself having moments of maybe like thoughts, but I don't act on them. And the thoughts usually, they don't have to do about food. Like there's just so much freedom around food, but it's more so about the image of like, I wish I looked like XYZ, or I not happy about, and that's just so normal. We're human.
Yeah.
We're not going to love every part of our bodies, but we are loved.
Right.
So I feel like those are the two things. And then maybe the third would just be like seeking help. Not necessarily, it doesn't have to be professional help at first, because that is kind of daunting and overwhelming, but sharing about it, finding support groups, because like what my goal is for my work is kind of like a stepping stone of that limbo of like, I have no idea how to eat. I don't know how to get my period back. But I don't want to live this way, to like referring to like, that's not my scope.
Yeah.
Let's get some other help.
Right.
I'm like in the middle of which is what I needed. I needed women who were like, instead of posting pictures of like, look how good I'm eating today, it's like, look how much I'm putting on my plate. I said yes to this donut.
Right.
Blah, 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 blah. So being with women who are kind of can just relate. And now we have social media where you can follow people, you can unfollow people. So
right, that's a big one. You might need to unfollow some people for sure.
Yes, absolutely. Whatever you fill your mind and body with, like that's where your heart is going to be led, whether it's what you're reading, seeing, what you're eating. Yeah.
I think a takeaway that I got was just that it needs to be a priority. Like, and just the fact that women are the ones that struggle with this most of the time. And I do think it goes back to control. We just like to control things. And so maybe the first step is realizing that, hey, we're actually not in control, even though we think we are. And just maybe, I really, just in work too, like I really had to just every day give it to the Lord. Like, Lord, this is your day, whatever you want me to do. And just the act of surrendering, I think it can go to whatever area of life that needs to be for you. I think it makes ripple effects in other areas. So there's something beautiful about that. Like the Lord's going to honor that, and so that's what, kind of came to me. And just the fact that he can heal all of that. Like you're not too far gone. You're not too messed up. You're not anything, you're where you're at for a reason. And the Lord has you there because he wants you to give it to him and give him the glory. But he also, I think that can be a testimony that is part of our testimony. So I really feel like you shared your testimony today. So
it's so true. That gave me chills because it's so hard in that moment in the season of the suffering and the waiting to feel that way. Like, oh God, I know there's purpose in this. That's
but it stinks. Yeah.
But it's the truth once you get through it. And kind of to like also bring back the fertility part of this conversation that relates to disordered eating. The other thing that's so important is have your cycle, get your cycle back.
Yeah.
And
it's important.
I think the biggest factor of me recovering my cycle, it was the work of healing my relationship with food. That was the number one thing I had to do first. Yeah. And I think a lot of women forget that because they want to jump to supplements and
agreed,
really easy answers of like, what can I take? What can I eat? But even if you're eating all the right foods, even me now, I don't know what my next journey is going to be like, with trying to get pregnant again, whenever that happens. And like fear and anxiety can creep in because it's like, oh, what if I have to wait for a long time? There are people who do all the right things and we're still not in control, like you said, but there are things we can do, control the controllables, and then surrendering and taking the time to learn in that season is, we couldn't do it without the Lord.
No. And I just look back, it took me 2 years to get pregnant with my first because I was coming off birth control, like all the things, I had no idea what was going on, a lot similar to yours. I was having a cycle, but anyway, long story short, he taught me so much about the fact that I was not in control in those 2 years. And I'm just so thankful for that because sometimes we need that waiting time to realize that, it was really frustrating, but at some point it's like, well, I don't have any other choice but to just release control. So if you're a control freak and you're in a waiting period, it's there for a reason. So
okay, the last thing that I will say about that, because we had a long season of waiting too. So girls, you are not alone.
Yes.
But the sentence that the Lord taught me during that season was, Jess, I want you to want me more than a baby.
Yes.
And I was like, oh,
it's
fine,
hard.
Fine. And so just use that as an opportunity to be with him. Amen. And I think the hardest part is we think, why is he doing that to me? He's not doing things like this in spite of us. Our world is broken. Our bodies are human. They're not perfect. Mm-hmm. That's why we long for heaven one day. But yeah, it's weird to say I am thankful for seasons I've gone through. 100%.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I love this conversation.
Yeah,
we could go on and on.
Oh, thank you.
But you know, just the group that you were talking about, I know some people are like, hey, I want to sign up for that. And I know it might not be here yet because you are still in a season of young kids, but will you tell people like how to follow along with you? Like, you know, how to maybe get on a wait list even? I don't know, just kind of share with them how they can get in touch with you.
My Instagram handle, which is where I do my social media stuff, is at Jess Hodge Wellness. I've had one group course that I did back in the early spring. Mm-hmm. And then I took a break because of all the move and life was just really crazy. So, if you go to my link in there, my link tree, there is a wait list. And what I'm basically going to do is when I'm ready to launch it, which the goal is in the next couple of months.
Okay.
Even month, maybe. I'm going to email out those emails and be like, yo, it's opening up. So snag your spot. That's all the details I can give because I don't want to promise and not deliver.
Right. Totally.
That I will say that's what I'm working on is executing this work. It's really hard.
No, it is.
I'm not business minded. I have the ideas, but it's really hard to execute. So I'm outsourcing a lot of stuff.
Right. Well, that's great. People need what you have to offer. So we're excited about it. It sounds amazing. So if you're interested in that, go sign up for the wait list. Definitely give Jess a follow. I just love how real and honest you are. That's kind of how I am. And so I really appreciate that. And just, you have some great recipes too. I just made those cottage cheese pancakes again for the 6th time. So they're so good.
Those are so good.
Yes.
Cottage cheese having its moment.
Yes. Lots of great content over there. So thank you so much for taking the time. I know you're super busy, but I feel like this is something that women are going to get a lot out of. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes.